Say a couple words about the game Saturday and last week. Obviously, got news on NCAA decision and then also our preparation for Western Michigan. So, first of all, I just want to start out by congratulating Sebastian Castro for his first pick and pick 6 and being named Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. So certainly a great honor for him, and it was a big play in the game and real spark play for us. So just happy for him. He's, I think, improved every turn in the program. Did a really nice job in the bowl game last year, and is off to a great start this year. So it's great to see him in his senior year playing so well, and just happy for him personally. Certainly good to get the victory. It was hard fought, like we expected, and to bring the trophy back here and have it in our facility for a year is a great thing. So really pleased about that. And then also beyond that, I think our team made some strides. Really saw some improvement in a lot of different areas, and then always, to go into a tough environment, which we'll have more of those to deal with during the year, and come out of the victory. Just really happy. It was hard fought, and we certainly expected that. So pleased with that. Now we move on. Before I get to Western, unfortunately, we received some disappointing news, very disappointing news regarding Noah's appeal to the NCAA, and it was denied. So that thing puts it to rest, and I'm not quite sure what went into the decision. But what I can tell you is that Noah's just a tremendous young man, has been, came back for his 6th year, and just a highly respected leader in our locker room and certainly with our coaching staff. So I feel very, very unfortunate, and our goal is to keep him with the program, keep him close, have him remain as a part of the team. Obviously, he can't play, but he's run a heck of a race, and we're just really disappointed with this whole thing. He's been honest throughout this whole process, very transparent, and I think about as honest you could be. And one thing I do want to emphasize, he did not break any laws at all. My wife made that point a couple of weeks ago, just an emphasis, and he is guilty of an NCAA violation. He was very upfront about that, and so that is that. But basically, I don't agree with or understand, quite frankly, the decision, especially when it comes to the severity of the punishment. And to me, that's really disappointing, especially considering our current environment right now, which, believe me, the last couple of months I'm a lot more in tune to than I had been, certainly. And probably the most disappointing thing, I think the panel that heard the appeal had an opportunity to really do something, make a decision that to me would reflect reason and also reflect the changing environment. And, they failed to do so. So that is what it is. We'll move on, and just disappointed on that front, certainly. So as we move on to Western Michigan this week, our captains, same guys. We've got Joe Evans, certainly, and Jay Higgins on defense. Got Luke Lachey and Cade McNamara on offense. Playing Western, they're a 1-1 football team. They've had a good program for quite some time up at Western, made a coaching change this past offseason. So got a new head coach and who's got an offensive background. And it's kind of interesting. They got a lot of new faces on the offensive staff. Then defensively, they've retained the coordinator, and Coach Esposito's been there quite some time. So basically, it's the same defensive staff, pretty much a new offensive staff. And then they brought a special teams coach who had been with the head coach at Louisville last year. So he's run the special teams. And basically, just in a nutshell, offensively, it's a little bit of a mix from what we've seen the last 2 weeks. So there's some carryover in terms of preparation, and certainly one of our goals is to try to get off the field a little bit quicker if we can, moving forward. That's something we're working on, certainly. And then defensively, just would describe them as a very aggressive, very multiple defense, and very, very active. So, we got a hands full there in terms of preparation. It's kind of interesting. They got hit by the transfer portal, lost some really good football players in the portal. They've also brought some new guys in that I think have really added to the personality of their football team. And specifically, they got a couple guys on defense that were Big Ten players that are really doing a great job. And we're going to really need to account for those guys if we're going to plan to move the ball. So, as we move forward here, I think really it's very similar to every game week. We're going to try and have to match up against the opponent. At least we have 2 games to work off now, so that's helpful a little bit to see this year's team and get a little bit of a feel for what they do, just like they're doing with us. So try to match up with what we're getting ready for, and then the other components we're trying to grow and improve as a football team, and that's all year long, but certainly in the early season it's really critical. And then like any football game, the mental approach is something you have to have that right. And got a little help from the media, I guess, yesterday or Sunday, whenever it was. Saw a headline about the 2-week countdown to our first Big Ten game, and it just kind of reflects, I guess, the world that our players are living in. So it's good for us as coaches just to have that perspective, I think, and just remind our guys that every day is important, every game is important, they all count the same, and so the bottom line is we have to worry about this week, and I think our guys understand that. And I can just top that off a little bit. A lot of talk about 200 the last couple days, and I could throw out a number 2 also, and that would be 2 as in losses to Western Michigan since I've been here. So kind of give a little perspective here about what our chore is this week. So that's kind of that right now. And then the last thing is our kid captain this week is Maggie Larson, who's a young 6-year-old from Urbandale, Iowa, and she'll be with us. Has a genetic condition that they're working on at the University Hospital, and as I've been told, and I haven't looked at it yet, but I will, she's got her stories on the Children's Hospital website, so encourage everybody to take a look at that. Maggie Larson, she'll be here with her 2 brothers, mom and dad, Saturday, so it'll be great to have her with us. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Kirk, when it comes to Noah Shannon, I think he was an NFL guy. He could have gone to the NFL after last season. He's not going to play this season. What would you tell an NFL team about Noah Shannon and maybe why they should take a chance on him or take him?
Yeah, I think they do their evaluations, and the good news is he's got a lot of good film. He's played a lot of good football for us, and as I just said, he's a tremendous young man. He made a mistake, like a lot of guys do, and this is an interesting study on so many levels. And I think I've talked about that enough. But I was just hoping the panel, the committee, whoever it is, it's all faceless and nameless, but whoever it was might dig a little deeper and just take a little bigger picture on this whole thing. So it's unfortunate, but it doesn't change how I feel about Noah, the kind of person he is. And I think the key emphasis is there's no law broken here. It's a mistake that I'm guessing a lot of athletes have made, and he just happened to, for whatever reason, turned up in this investigation. So it's unfortunate, and I just think a missed opportunity by the NCAA.
Do you think they made an example of him? Is that what they?
Yeah, I can't speak to that. I think I've learned a lot in the last 3 months about, and I'm telling you, now the season started, the NFL season started, I can't get in the car without hearing whatever, whoever the companies are that have. And then, of course, at the end, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800, all that stuff. So, it's just a different world we live in right now, and we seem to be a little slow to react to it. We being, the governing body.
What kind of role will he fill with the team this year?
We'll put him to work in a lot of ways, but just to have his experience, expertise with us on a daily basis, mentor some younger guys. Every year we have young guys that are going through a really tough transition, just like he did 6 years ago, and that's could be invaluable. So we'll keep him busy, and I think it's good for him to be busy, certainly. And he didn't have to come back for this 6 year. All of us are very appreciative. He, Joe, and brain partner Nico chose to come back. So it's just unfortunate, really an unfortunate turn of events. But we'll put him to work, that's for sure.
What can you say about just what his emotions are? I can't imagine what they would be, but just how is he dealing with it, I guess, at this point?
Yeah, I think that's probably the saddest part about this whole thing. And as coaches and as parents, you deal with the humanistic part of things, and you work with these guys as people, and you see all the hardships that they go through, especially student athletes, and nobody's complaining, but it's just it's not for everybody, what they have to do, whether it's the football part of things, the academic, the character, all the stuff that the expectations they have, and it's like injuries, when guys work hard and then have an opportunity taken away from them, whether it's an injury or in this case, I think just maybe a severe penalty. It's hard. It's really hard. And, his parents have lived through this with him, and just as of, his teammates and coaching staff, it's too bad. So It's I don't know why devastating is a strong word, but it's a real blow.
One player you're getting back this week, Jamari Harris. How did he stay involved the last couple of weeks? Was it just normal, typical, just didn't play, or how, and what does he bring to the field?
Yeah, we have a policy, if a guy has some kind of conduct issue and they have a suspension, then they go to the scout team. We didn't do it with Jamari, and I kind of feel the same way about this whole topic. Has really been interesting. So, but yeah, he's been really active. He's been great. He's had a great camp, and basically he's been with our team. Just was with us Saturday. Just didn't play the last 2 weeks. So he's fully engaged, ready to roll, and be good to get him back.
What does he bring? We've seen him.
Experience. Yeah, experience. I think he did a great job. A tough circumstance 2 years ago. All of a sudden he was in there, not maybe necessarily ready, but stepped up and did a really good job. And then he's the fun part. Talk about the human side of things. Just to watch the growth that we've seen with him over the his career. It's just been unbelievable. And last year or 2 years, I guess it's now been at least 2 years now, he's really developed into not only a good player but a really strong leader on our team, and it's taken a lot of ownership. And talking about mentoring young guys, he's really been active, helping younger guys try to get better.
Sean's role been moving forward? He looked every bit a starter these last 2 games filling in for him.
Yeah, the good news there is it's kind of like Jamari's situation a couple years ago. He got thrown in. I shouldn't say thrown in. He earned his way to the field. We had an opening, and he earned his way and really did a good job. He's played really well for two games now, and the good news for him is he's gained a lot of confidence from his teammates, from the coaching staff. So we came into the season with that being depth at that position, the corner position being a real area of interest for us, and now we have a lot more confidence in him, just like we did when Jamari stepped in, did the same thing.
The block that Jazz had where he took out 2 guys, did you see that live, or did you see that in film, and just what all was your reaction to that?
Yeah, he's really Jazz performed the way he's practiced, I'd say. He runs the same way, and he's blocked well in camp, and that's a big part of being a running back, and a lot of people, that keeps guys off the field sometimes. But that was really impressive. He did a really nice job, and again, we're not surprised because we see him do it in practice, and it's critical. It's just critical to any play's success. You have to have. If they bring somebody that a back's responsible for, either we're going to throw the ball hot to the guy, or else he's got to block the guy, and just good to see that.
What all kind of was his attitude like? Maybe especially earlier last year before he got into the bowl game. Just were there indications you saw of him being able to kind of do?
Yeah, we get to watch guys improve during the course of a year and during practice, and he's done that. And but he's been pretty steady, really. And like I said, that was the first live action where you really saw him hit. It was down in the bowl game. And then, but since then he's done a good job in the spring session and did a good job during camp, and hopefully he's got a lot of good football in front of him right now.
A lot of times with running backs, pass pro is the last thing to come around, whether it's a freshman or a rookie at the next level. But for somebody, a redshirt freshman, to do what he was able to do, and especially a third down blocking situation, to kind of contort his body to make sure he didn't, let him make it to his quarterback. Is that rare, or not extraordinary, but just different for somebody that young to do something like that?
Yeah, he's interesting to that point. To me, he plays bigger than he is. Like physically, he's a physical player, blocking and running. But he's not, I wouldn't describe him as a big back, but he plays big, if that makes sense. And some big backs don't play so big. But it's a good trait. He's got a real hardness to him, and whether it's blocking, running, and having an ability to make the yards you need, and that's a critical thing.
What's his personality like?
He's great to, really easy to get along with. I don't know how to describe it other than just he's very pleasant. Just a good young guy. Comes from a really big family. He's a young kid in a big family, and his dad's a diver. A little fun trivia for you, which surprised me. Jazz doesn't dive, as far as I know.
Cade came in here and said it's the best he's felt in a month. He said his practice, first time he's had game week practice in like a year. What does that open up the playbook more? What does that help? How does that just help your offense going forward?
Yeah, time will tell in terms of opening up the playbook, but that's encouraging. He said something to me Thursday night. I bumped into him in here. He and Eric were actually leaving. They were watching film, and they were leaving the building. But he indicated that he was feeling like, he was gaining ground at that point, and that was encouraging. And we're in a lot better position today than 2 weeks ago, which is really encouraging too. And with injuries, you just never know how they're going to go. Everybody heals differently. So that's encouraging, but all that being said, you still got to keep your fingers crossed and hope that he keeps climbing. But certainly the fact that he can practice now is huge because he's missed a lot of time, and the timing component is so important. And it's important because, he's not like he's played with our guys a lot, so this is the first time he's done any team stuff, was in August on. So there's a lot of work to do right now, and that's encouraging for me. I talk about the potential of our team. I think that's a big part of it. If we can keep him out there, keep him practicing, common sense would say, we'll probably play better, with him getting more work. And then if he's more physically able to move around a little bit, that'd be a good thing for us too.
How quickly do you think he can catch up after all that missed time?
I don't know if I can predict it, but the good news is he's played. It's not like a guy who has never played, and that's a big difference sometimes. So when older guys get hurt or they miss time for whatever reason, at least their road back is usually a little quicker, a little smoother, because they have experience, as opposed to a guy who's never, just doing it for the first time. It's a little different.
Kirk, with the offense, do you feel like it took another step against Iowa State?
I do. Yeah, I do. I feel saw a lot of things that were more encouraging, and we're still not there yet, but we're a more mature group certainly than we've been the last 2 years overall. And so it's just, but you got to keep going. And last week was a unique challenge, the kind of defense they play. I said it a week ago at this time. They've done a great job since 18 on defense, and Saturday was no different. We expected that. And then this is a different preparation. It's taken me a little while just to make it make sense in my mind a little bit, because it's just how multiple they are. They throw a lot of looks at you, and so trying to make it make sense and make it make sense to our players, that's a challenge. And then you got to go out and try to execute against it.
The offense, it seems like you guys have started hot these last 2 games, cooled off at the start of the second half. What do you do to address that?
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the answer. I mean, we haven't started well either side of the ball the second half. We in the first game, they just took it right down the field on us, and last week we were out. So, I don't know. I mean, we got to figure something out there.
With Noah for sure out for the rest of the year, what have you seen from Wyatt and Aaron kind of filling in that spot?
Yeah, I guess the good news is, Wyatt missed spring, but he's looked good in August, and he's playing his best football right now, which is what you'd expect. He's been here a while, so he's continuing to do a good job. And then I thought Pitt was one of our most improved guys last spring. He's been a good guy all the way, but last spring is when he finally looked like he's gaining a little bit of traction as a player, and that continued throughout August. So again, it's just that building that base and learning how to play a little bit. And so I think we're in a decent situation with 4 guys there, but you want to rotate, so hopefully everybody will just keep working and keep improving.
Coach, Nick DeYoung said that your teams typically tend to get better towards the back half of the season offensively. How important is this opportunity to kind of get things going this week, just building off of what we saw the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, every week's important for us and for the whole team, really. And I think that's a fair statement by Nick. It's just our whole team, our best teams have gotten better progressively during the season. Our not so best teams haven't maybe done as good a job of that. So that's really the challenge. As I said earlier, it's a twofold thing, because you're trying to match up for what you think your opponent's going to do and how they might approach you, and then the other part is just what can you do yourself to make yourself better. And a lot of that's experience, but experience isn't any good unless you put it to use, and that's the key. It's a mental process there.
How important was it for you guys to hit the 100-yard mark against a really good defense? I mean, in the last year plus, you've played 8 defenses ranked in the top 14 in the country, and so even your trajectories kind of are masked by the opponent. But to get to that mark and look successful, and you see Connor smiling, after the game, is that an important part for this offense, just to have success and feel good about itself?
Yeah, it is. And you bring up Connor. It's a good point. We talked about it after the game. The trap block he had on the counter play, and it's just part of the process, the maturity. He's a much better player today than he was 2 years ago, but he was playing 2 years ago, probably before he was ready, and as part of our circumstance. But I think that's what we're seeing with the whole group, really, overall. At least the guys that have been here. I think they're more mature now, and they're practicing better. And seeing some success out there on the field. I think if we just keep our foot on the gas, hopefully we'll see it in a bigger scale.
DeYoung has really been the one from that 2019 offensive line recruiting class who's really shined. What is it that he was able to do to go from walk-on to be as reliable as he's been this year?
Run the race. I told him, I think it was 3 years ago now, coming off the field one day on the far end of the indoor, just that I thought I saw something in him, and I'm not sure he saw it. But again, it's just you can't. It's a process guys have to go through, and not everybody. It doesn't always come to reality for everybody. But at some point, I think he figured out, maybe he can do this and do it successfully, and with his skill set. But there's something about him. It just kind of stood out early. It was just a matter of him working through it and finding his path there. He's dealt with a lot of injuries too, like a lot of guys. And but last spring was the first time he ran the whole race, 15 days, every practice, and really you could see the confidence growing. He was more consistent with his techniques, and you could just see it growing. And again, I wish we could get there faster. I don't know a way to do that other than just it's hard work, it's dedication, it's a guy sticking with it, and he's certainly done that. Credit goes to him on that, and I think he's starting to maybe enjoy the game a little bit more because it's more fun when you're a good player.
You mentioned Bo Stevens might be back this week. Will he be back this week in the rotation?
Yeah, not in the rotation. Well, he might be in the rotation right now. We'll see. He's just kind of getting back. He missed significant time, but he is on the field the last 2 days. Getting him in there working, so I don't know if it'll be this week, next week, but he's going to hopefully be able to stay healthy and get back into the picture here a little bit.
John Parker,
he's gaining ground. He's still not there yet, but gaining ground. He's practicing. But he's just missed such a huge amount of time. It's unfortunate. I'm sorry, can I come right back to you?
Kirk, when Caleb Brown announced his commitment to you guys, there was a lot of excitement. I know he's kind of been in the wide receiver rotation, and the wide receivers, I think, off to a slower start against Iowa State, whether it be game plan or anything else. I guess, how would you assess the wide receiver room and Caleb Brown as a whole, how they're kind of staying with the process, being patient, and waiting for those opportunities? I
like what I see at the room. I think, again, Nico and Deontay are our most experienced guys. They're both practicing well, and Seth made a great catch. That was, to me, a huge play. Those are the kind of plays you got to make if we're having an offensive team. Went up and snagged it and for a first down right in front of our bench. But it's not always going to be the wow plays, but you just got to make some routine plays, or maybe a little bit beyond routine. But I really think Seth and Caleb are very similar. They're both younger guys. We didn't see anything of them in the spring. One wasn't here and the other guy was hurt. But both of them have done a really nice job since August. And probably the only difference is Seth has played a little bit more receiver, whereas this is new for Caleb. But he's a great guy, great attitude, and he has a good ability. So I think, if everybody just is patient, just let this thing, go as it goes, it's going to be fine. But all four of those guys, see them all being active in the rotation.
Kirk, pass rush only 1 sack so far. Is that more of a function of what you're facing versus production?
A little bit of each, I think. Yeah, a little bit of each. And then how we're playing defense too. We're sometimes we're more geared to stop the run, or at least, or play both run and pass, as opposed to just taking off and going after the guy. Third and long, obviously you're chasing, but and then sometimes the ball comes out. There are different factors that go into. I'm not worried about it. The guys are working hard, and I think we have guys that can get there.
Jake even said that he heard stories about what Sebastian Castro used to do on the scout team. I don't know if you have any memories from back.
Yeah, he was a missile out there. Like he was. He went hard, fast, and I shouldn't talk about basketball. I know nothing about it, but other than like what you hear. The analogy I can give you, I remember a guy named D. Rowe was a legendary coach at UConn. UConn's good in basketball, even when I was in school. And a couple of things he would talk about. He'd talk about, this whole diet stuff. He says the best athletes in the world are playing on the playgrounds, New York City, D.C., and what do they do when they get hungry? They go to 7-Eleven, grab a dog, a couple of Cokes, and, back to the courts and just play all day. And, so we're worried about where our pregame's going to be for our team. I thought that was a pretty good point. But then sometimes, I guess, guys can play, freelance, but maybe when they get into a system, it's a little bit different. And I think that's a challenge defensively. So, Sebastian was just, when he's going off a card, you can just go and there's no repercussions for making a mistake. Then you have to get into a system where you've got, got reactions and different responsibilities. Bob went through the same thing. Like, Bob was an awesome special teams guy and had to learn how to play within the defense, but obviously he did, and did a really good job. And so it happens for different guys at different stages. But yeah, Sebastian's really gotten it figured out, and I thought he did a really nice job last year for us, and just really excited to watch him play all season long. He's an aggressive guy. He's totally committed and 100% on board, and just, boy, he's an aggressive, tough guy.
I think you said post-game.
Have you seen him just work through those growing pains?
Yeah, it's part of the process. And again, sometimes some guys make the transition really quickly, and then other guys it takes a little bit longer. But the credit goes for a guy sticking it out and just keep banging away. And that's a fun part about Saturday. You think about all the time he was on the scout team, or the times he was playing special teams and not really out there defensively for us. And now for him to, that's, I don't want to call it a bonus or award, but that's a nice, it's a nice play, a nice. I never scored a touchdown. I know that. So, pretty cool for a defensive guy to score a touchdown.
One thing you said post-game about Sebastian is that you thought he wouldn't have made that play last year. Is that just a byproduct of him finding his spot in the defense?
Well, yeah, it's finding a spot, but also the reaction time, and just like he just went. He just, that ball came out and boom, he was on it. So that's experience. It's experience. Again, you can't hand that to a player. It just, some guys are a little bit more, but that's the result of his hard work over, several years, not just one couple weeks.
I'm sure when Jackson came here, he thought he was going to be playing downhill football. In the last 2 weeks, he's been playing more like a safety, just based on the way the offenses have run. What's been your assessment of him thus far? Just 2 games in, but really since he came to campus.
He's kind of like our team. I mean, yes and no. He's different in that he's a veteran player and has played a lot of football, a lot of really good football. Totally different scheme that he was in, so this has been a transition for him. He'd probably be the first to tell you. And then a lot of language things that he has to learn. It's like switching any team. So he's had to go through that. But again, to that point about an older guy, I think the transition's a lot easier. Highly intelligent player and just really 100% invested too. So I thought he's a perfect fit in the recruitment process. And then once he's been here, he's been great. He's just a fantastic young man. And he's going to see it all before the end of the season. He'll see all kinds of offenses. But I'm really confident that each week he'll just keep growing too, like a lot of other guys on our team. And that's the part that gets you excited, because it's just common sense that he'll, with each rep of practice and everything he's doing right now, it's going to really add to a successful year for him.
Is he the type of player where you recruit him in the transfer portal and he's older, he knows what he wants, you don't have to go with the bling and how great things are, you don't have to shine him up, you just basically, here's the game, and does it make it almost easier?
Yeah, I don't mean this in a negative way, but the difference between talking to a guy who's in 10th grade currently and then a guy who's graduating with a commerce degree from Virginia, just, it's such a different discussion. And the thing we enjoyed about our recruitment of him, he specifically knew what he was looking for, and he had a couple schools targeted. And, we had such a need. And not only were graduating 2 guys in the box there with Benson and Campbell that were really good players, but I think what we were looking at was I was really concerned about the leadership void. You lose 2 guys of that magnitude. All of us felt great about Jay Higgins because we've been watching him for a couple of years now and watched his growth. So we felt really good about that. But to have a chance to bring another guy in who's a captain and who's really mature and understands what it takes to be successful. So all of a sudden you lose 2 guys like we just lost, and then now you got Jay coming up, homegrown, and then you got a guy who's he could have been here the last 2 years. I mean, he's that kind of guy. So I mean, it was so seamless. And so not only are you getting a guy who's got production as a football player, but you got that leadership too, and that's I think what our biggest, look at last year's, you lose those 2 guys, you lose Moss and Merriweather in the back end. There's 4 guys that have a lot of leadership in the bank. And so I think it was a big part of it, just trying to address that part, not only getting good players, but guys who maybe could help fill that void a little bit.
Last question. So I talked to Logan Jones, and he said he was in this room when he told him he would be playing center in 2022. So what do you remember from that day and his transition in general?
Yeah, I couldn't have told you that. That's good. So anyway, I don't remember where it was, but in retrospect, I wish I'd done it earlier. I wish I'd had that thought probably in December, like we did with Tower, just to give him, another couple of weeks of practice at it. But he was receptive about it, and he's first class in every way, and that just, so he's done amazingly well, transitioned to a new spot. And, you'd never know right now, just the shortness of duration, how long he's been doing it, because he makes it look pretty easy. But he's still got, a lot of room for improvement, and that'll come with that maturity. Every rep's going to help him because he takes it the right way and he works extremely hard, and just, he's so invested and conscientious. So I'm just thrilled he's on our football team too. And he's a strong leader too, a very strong leader, and not overly vocal, but just through who he is and how he does things is really powerful. So again, if you're going to have a good football team, you have to have guys like that, just kind of in the center of things, linebacker, up the middle, center, quarterback, and then safeties, obviously. So that's a big part of, being a successful team, and we're really thrilled he's playing there, doing a great job. Okay. Thank you. See you Saturday.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Weitzel.
Who do we have on?